So now that we know how we create songs in Holyrics, let's talk about how we can change how the song is going to be displayed when we project the song. In Holyrics, that's mainly done through the use of themes. And you can see right here on the bottom right that there is a list of themes. And this basically changes how the song will look like when we actually project them. Before we go into themes, I just wanted to mention that in this preview right here, just like the screen where we create our songs, we can change how this is going to be displayed based on a widescreen or a standard projector, or your display monitor has a weird resolution. You can also select it here and it will fit to that weird resolution that you have. So to create our own themes, we can come here to this theme drop down arrow and select create, or we can come to the new and theme, which is Ctrl 2, and this theme creation window will pop up. In here we will be able to configure everything from the font size to the alignment, any effect to the font size, background color, outline, and also the background of our theme. Again, here on this side we can change how this is going to be displayed, and this is only for us to have a reference on how our theme is going to be displayed. It doesn't change how it's going to be on the projector. This is dependent on the projector that you have or on the screen that you have. And here it's only a matter for us to see how it will look like in those different resolutions. So the first thing we want to do with this theme is to change our background. Right now it's a solid color background, and we might want to change it to something more interesting. So we can come to this background section and click on change. And in here you'll see different tabs, and right now we are on the color tab. We can change this color if we want to have a solid color on our theme. We can also select an animation. Holyrics already come with 6, 7, 8, 9 animations preloaded. If you like any of the other ones that are not available, you can simply click on download and Holyrics will download it for you. And then after that you will be able to use it on your themes. You just select the animation that you like and you will see it displayed on your theme right here. You can change the speed that the animation is played, for example, half or 1.5. You can also change the opacity. Right now it's 100%, so it means that the video is shown as 100%. If we change this to like 50%, now 50% of the screen is the video and the other 50% is the color that you selected right here. So if you change this color for example, blue, we can change this opacity effect on our theme, and we can play with this. So for example, right now I have a snow which was originally white. If we make this 100, we will see that it was originally white and hard to see the text, but now that we kind of merged it with this blue 50 by 50, now it became kind of a bluish snow. So we can play with that if you want. The other option here on the background is the pattern, and this is basically a texture that repeats infinitely. So for example, if I select this, you will see that it will fill my entire area with that repeating image. Finally, we have images, and these are the images that come with Holyrics. So I can select, for example, this one, and we will see the image right here. For images, you will see that we have this drop-down menu in which we can select different ways that the image will be displayed on the theme. So for example, fill, we'll try to fill your entire screen depending on what resolution you have with the image. We have extend, we have adjust, we have side by side, and center. So we can play with that. Maybe your image will look a little bit better depending on the way you display it. And here, the My Videos and My Images is where you can actually use your own figures or your own images on your computer, or your own videos from your computer. You just have to click or drop the video file that you want here, and it will show up here just like these ones that already comes with Holyrics. Same for the images. This image right here already comes with Holyrics. This one the other one I put it myself, so the process is just finding the image on your computer. In this case I had this one, and imported it. Then we can click OK, and now we have our image here. Same thing for the videos. I don't have a video to show, but the process is pretty simple and it is the same. We just click here, select your video, and it will show up here, and then you can just select it as if it was this one. Click OK, and your video will show up here. And again, you can play with the speed, you can play with the opacity, what color you want it to merge with in case you don't have 100% opacity. So in terms of background, that's it. Now let's talk about the font. How can we change the font in Holyrics? So the drop-down menu, it's pretty straightforward. It will show you all the fonts that you have installed on your computer. Those are not fonts that come with Holyrics. Those are the fonts that are already in your computer. You can also play with the color of the font. You can play if it's bold or italic, and you can play with the spacing of the line. If you select 0, it's the original spacing of the line. If you put 0.1, then it increases in 10% the original spacing, up to 1, which is 100% the original spacing of the lines. Let's keep it 0.3. And in here is the spacing of the characters. You can play with it to see if you like, for example, this. And in here we have the size of the lines. So right now I have the size of my lines at 10%. That means that if you divided this slide vertically in 10 lines, each line will have this size. I can play with it, for example, 20%. You see now that my text is twice as big. And also keep in mind that Holyrics will not increase the size of the lines above what you have in space in your slide. So for example, you can see that at 20%, I already have my text pretty close to the edges. So if I put, let's say 40%, nothing changes because that's already at the maximum that your slide can fit. And you will see that this also have an impact if we had a standard display. You will see that now the text got broken down into more lines because it readjusted itself to the standard resolution. So that's why it is important to keep in mind that you might not have a widescreen projector, and creating your theme with a widescreen image here, it's not how it will look like in your projector. So let's go back to, let's say, maybe 14%. You can change this manually if you want. So before we move on to the next step, which is align, let's talk about how we can change the text that's going to show up here. And this text is just for us to have a reference of how a song will look like when we are displaying it, and you can change it right here. If you're using Holyrics with a language that has any type of accents, like in this case Portuguese or French, or basically any known English language, even some English words might have accents, it's good to put some accents in this sample text in order to see if the font that you're selecting have the accent characters. Some fonts might not have your accent characters, so it's important to have it here so you might catch it at the time of creating the theme, other than when you're displaying the text on your church and you realize that the character that you want, it's not in that font. So moving on to the Align tab, this is also pretty straightforward. You can select if you want to align it right, to the left, or even justify it, centered, vertical alignment as well. And here there's a concept of margins, which are important. And you see this dotted line or this dashed line, and those numbers are in the percentage of your entire width and your entire height. So right now it's at 3% of the height and 3% of the width. So for example, if I want my right margin to be 10% of the width, I change it here, press enter, and you'll see that now it moved to 10%. And when you select this, for example, right align, it will align to the margin that you have. If you want to see the margins all the time, you can simply click here on this margin, and you will see that it will always align with reference to the margin. Let's go back to 3%. Okay, let's keep the margin on. For the effects, we can change the outline of the font. Let's make it wide so we can see. And let's increase it. You can see that as I increase it, the outlines of the fonts increases as well. Let's go back to 0, and you can also change the brightness. Let's do the same thing to see how the brightness influences the font. You can see that it gives kind of a glow effect to the text. And finally, we have some shadows here. Let's also put some white shadows. And in here, this left slider, we control if the shadows is to the left or to the right. And in this one, we control if it's up or down. We can also change some shadow effects right here. If we don't want shadows, we just need to put them back to 0, which is hard to eyeball. So you can simply, oh, it's pretty good. But you can simply click on the reset as well, and it will go back to 0 and 0. Let's jump into background color, and to actually see what this means, we need to activate it here. And because we have the same color as our font, we can see anything. So let's maybe put it as like a gray. And now we can see that a box has created below our text. And we can use that if we want to maybe separate our text from the image below or the video below it. We don't know if maybe the text will interfere with the image going on behind. So we can put this box around it. We can change the opacity. Maybe it doesn't need to be fully the color that we want. We can have some blend with the background. Again, we can change the margin of it here. This margin controls only this box, not the margin of the text itself. And again, it's based on percentages, and you can see that increasing it, it increases a little bit as well. And it doesn't go past 100%. So at 0%, it is touching the text, and at 100%, it has some space. So the default look good. Maybe the font that you have, these accents, it might touch it, and you can increase it in here to avoid that touching. You can also round the corners by specifying the radius of the roundness of the corners if you want. You can change it from a box to just on the lines of the text. You can also make the lines occupy the entire width of the slide. And you can also make the box occupy the entire margin of the theme. And again, if you want to change the margin, you can come to a line and increase the margin to, let's say, 20%. And you will see that the box will follow the margin. Let's go back to 3%. Let's remove the background color. And let's go to outline. Outline is pretty similar to background color, except that instead of a full box, it's just the outline of what a box would be. And the configurations here are exactly the same for the box, with the exception of the width, in which you can control the width of the line. Let's go back. And for the comments, we haven't talked about comments yet. Hopefully we will do a future video about it, but just know that this is where you format how your comments will look like on your themes as well. So after we are good with the theme we created, we can give it a name. So for example, my custom theme, and save the theme. So now you see that immediately our theme gets selected, and all of our songs now will be played with this theme. If you want to change the theme that you're using, you can come here to the bottom and simply select it with a single click, and you see that the theme is automatically applied to the songs, and you see that all the songs will be played with these themes. If for some reason you want a song to always be played in a specific theme, you can select this Save Theme to Music and select the theme that you want. For example, let's say I always want my custom theme to be played when I'm presenting this All About You Hill song. So now this song will always be played with this theme. If I select another song, it will be back to my selected theme here. But the All About You song will always have this theme applied to it. And if I want it to go back to whatever is my default theme, I can simply uncheck this, and this will be back to whatever theme I have selected here. So this is it. This is how to create your own themes in Holyrics. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you on the next video.